The movie opens with Tim painting a picture of the kind of household he grew up in. He lived with his unsentimental mother, Mary, a seemingly normal dad, James, and an absent-minded uncle, Desmond, and a free-spirited, eternally barefoot younger sister, Katherine, or as they call her, Kit Kat. They had a holistic and organized way of entertainment, which involved movie nights and picnics at the beach. Tim's typical life, however, changed on his 21st birthday when his father sat him down and told him that the men in his family have the ability to travel back in time to the moments they have lived before. Tim thinks it is a joke, but James tells him the process is as easy as clenching his fists while standing in a dark, small place like a cupboard. Tim doesn't believe him one bit, but goes to try it out for himself. He returns to the New Year's Eve party from the night before and decides to kiss the girl interested in him, something he hadn't done the first time and made her cry. Tim returns, surprised that it worked, and asks his dad what all he has done with this ability. James confesses he has traveled back in time to read books, even twice or thrice. However, he warns Tim not to use his power to acquire money or fame, citing his grandfather's example, who wreaked havoc in his life by changing the course in time for money. Tim decides to use his ability to improve his love life, given that he still doesn't have a girlfriend. Tim gets that opportunity the following summer when Kit Kat's friend Charlotte comes to stay with them for 2 months. Tim is instantly smitten by her and often uses his powers to redo things that make him look desperate the first time. On the last day of Charlotte at their place, Tim decides to confess his feelings, but Charlotte turns him down, saying he should have confessed earlier. So Tim travels a month back and tells Charlotte that he loves her. Although impressed by his proposal, Charlotte doesn't want to make any decisions she would regret in the future and asks him to wait until the end of her stay and see how things go. Tim realizes that she isn't interested in him, and in terms of changing someone's mind, time travel is as useful as a screen door on a submarine, and this leaves Tim heartbroken. Tim leaves for London the next day to pursue a career as a lawyer and possibly find a girlfriend. He finds lodging with Harry, a cynical playwright and a friend of James. Harry shouts at Tim for making him forget the idea for his book that he had had after months of thinking. He has very interesting things to say about his parents and his own wife who left him. After knowing that Tim doesn't have a girlfriend, he refers to the both of them as two losers in the same home. Tim makes it into a law firm and soon starts his practice, but he still has no luck with the ladies until one night when he visits Don Lenoir, a restaurant with the concept of dining in total darkness. Tim accompanies his friend Jay, and they're made to share the table with 2 women. There, Tim is introduced to Mary, an American, and a reader at a publisher's office. They hit it off well and flirt and decide to meet outside the restaurant. Once outside, Tim and Mary see each other for the first time, and Tim asks for her number, which Mary gladly gives. That night, Tim walks home with a huge grin on his face, but when he reaches home, he finds a distraught Harry. It was opening night for his new play, and he was confident it would be a hit until the actor forgot his lines. Tim decides to help Harry and goes back in time to the theater, where he meets the actor who will forget his lines. He advises the actor to take a look at the script one last time before stepping onto the stage, and even though the actor shoos Tim out, accompanied by very colorful language, he does read the script one more time, and everything goes well on stage until Tim realizes it was the other actor who had forgotten his lines. Tim goes backstage to rectify his mistake and helps the actor by prompting him his lines using placards. As a result, the play is a hit. In the after party, Tim tries to call Mary, but he is unable to find her contact on his cell phone. He realizes by going back in time to help Harry, the meeting with Mary never occurred. The next morning at breakfast, he sees an advertisement announcing Kate Moss's exhibition and remembers Mary's obsession with Kate Moss. Tim rushes out to the exhibition and waits for Mary to show up. After waiting for a few days, Mary finally shows up, and their first encounter is weird. But Tim manages to ask her and her friend out for coffee, where Mary reveals she now has a boyfriend. Tim becomes inquisitive, and after finding the exact date and location Mary meets her new boyfriend, Tim excuses himself and time travels to the same place but arrives a bit early so he can meet Mary before the other guy can. He finds Mary and sweeps her off her feet by using her views on Kate Moss that he learned in the earlier meeting and takes her out to dinner before the potential boyfriend walks in. They hit it off and decide to go to her apartment to continue their date. Tim fumbles and has to travel back a few times to give Mary her best manual override and create a good impression. They soon fall in love and Tim moves in with her. One night, Tim asks Mary if she would like to go to the theater with him, but she refuses, so Tim takes his friend and runs into Charlotte there. Things get awkward when he misinterprets the meaning of girlfriend and has to go back in time twice so he doesn't make a fool of himself, and finally decides not to say hi to her. But as luck would have it, Charlotte sees him and invites him for dinner. Charlotte seems interested in him and invites him to her apartment, but Tim turns down the invitation and runs out of there like I run from my responsibilities as he realizes he loves Mary. He rushes back to Mary's apartment and asks her to marry him, and she says yes. They go to meet Tim's family, and along with a wedding announcement, they give the news of their pregnancy. Tim and Mary get married, and the reception party gets crashed by a thunderstorm, but they remember it as one crazy event that made their wedding memorable. After some months, they are blessed with a baby girl they named Posey. Suddenly, time travel becomes irrelevant as Tim finds happiness in small things, no matter how imperfect they might look. They shift into their new house, and time flies by. It is Posey's first birthday, and as the family is waiting for Kit Kat to arrive, her former boyfriend Jimmy shows up and tells Tim that Kit Kat and he had an argument that morning, and she started drinking before hopping in her car to come to the party. Kit Kat had drunkenly crashed her car and was admitted to the hospital. She had been struggling with a relationship with Jimmy and her unemployment, which made her resort to drinking. Tim decides to time travel and drive Kit Kat to the party himself, but that doesn't solve the basic issue. So he decides to take Kit Kat with him back in time to target the root cause and make her fix things between Jimmy and her after letting her in on his secret. But she thinks he's joking even as they stand in the closet. Tim brings them to the New Year's Eve party where she first met Jimmy, but he makes sure he doesn't meet him. And Kit Kat ends up in a happy relationship with Tim's friend, Jay. But when he returns home, he is shocked to find that Posey has never been born, and now he has a son instead. Tim freaks out and rushes to his dad for advice, and his dad tells him that they cannot change events that happened prior to the birth of their children, or they will end up with a different child. The revelation makes Tim give up on improving Kit Kat's life, and he lets the crash happen to ensure Posey is born. He knows Kit Kat will have to face her problems and make efforts to improve her future. They're back at the hospital, not willing to leave Kit Kat's side. While she recovers, she realizes she has to get out of the toxic relationship with Jimmy, and to help her, Tim drops a hint when he mentions Jay has a crush on her. Things work out between Kit Kat and Jay, and they soon get together. Time passes by, and Tim has another child, a baby boy. Life is chaotic as can ever be, with a 3-year-old Posey shredding every possible thing in sight. But the couple finds a way to cope with it till one day, Tim gets a call from his mom, informing him that his father has been diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. The family reunites to see James, and while Tim and James are alone, James reveals they've had this conversation before, and that traveling back is not an option, as his going back will change Tim and Kit Kat's conception. James also reveals that he has traveled back multiple times to relive many moments and, in the process, effectively extended his life and spent more time with his family. He tells Tim the secret of living a long and happy life by living each day twice. Once like anyone else with everyday tensions and worries, and the other by going back in time and living it exactly the same, only this time noticing how beautiful life can be and the things we tend to overlook in our daily lives. Tim follows his advice and lives every day twice. James soon passes away, but Tim travels into the past to visit him whenever he misses him, even on the day of the funeral. Once they're back home, Mary shares she wants another baby, but Tim is reluctant because another baby would mean he won't be able to visit his dad anymore. That was one of the toughest decisions he had to make, but he finally said yes. Mary soon conceives, and she is almost due when Tim decides to meet James one last time. He tells James he cannot visit him again, and James understands. Together, they go on a time travelception and relive a memory from Tim's childhood where they spent the entire day at the beach skipping stones into the ocean. They make sure not to change anything to ensure nothing changes in the future. Tim is back after bidding farewell to his dad, and life continues. Mary gives birth to a baby girl, and they get used to life without James. Kit Kat also becomes a mom, and the family couldn't have been happier seeing their daughter happy. From all the time traveling experience, Tim realizes it is better to live each day once. Now he doesn't feel the need to travel back, as he appreciates what awaits him and lives every day as if he's living the day of his extraordinary, ordinary life for the second time. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thanks for watching.